While we didn't get much new information at all out of the Cyber Rodeo event, Tesla may have revealed a move to a higher voltage which could also hint at a redesigned 2170 pack. Welcome to 5 Years Ahead, I'm Brandon Kruger. First off, a big thanks to the channel's first Patreon supporters, Jeremy and Lars. Thank you both for choosing to support the channel. This video is all my speculation and none of this is confirmed, but the deeper I went down this rabbit hole, the more it adds up. I welcome alternative explanations in the comments below. First, let's look at what was shown at the Cyber Rodeo event. On a hanging display, there were 12 cooling ribbons with 69 cells attached to each. This totals 828 cells per pack, or 81 kilowatt hours at the rumored 98 watt hours per cell. These ribbons run lengthwise in the vehicle as shown by this cutaway. Previous photos showed the cooling ribbons running along the width of the car. In this new cutaway, we can see a part number on this black piece on the outside of the pack. Since this piece is about the same width as the adjacent ribbon of cells, I think these exist to substitute for another ribbon of cells on each side. These are surely far easier to produce than a set of dummy cells. But this tells me this pack was designed to handle another 2 ribbons of cells. At the rumored 98 watt hours per cell, 14 ribbons would add up to almost 95 kilowatt hours from 966 cells. This would likely offer around 380 miles of range. But with cell shortages, increased materials cost, and huge demand, there's no reason to use that many batteries per car right now. The 828 cell pack shown would be equivalent to the current long-range 2170 pack and offer the same range, which I believe was originally their plan. This 828 cell pack could only be divided evenly to make a 92S or 138S pack. 92S would yield slightly lower pack voltage unless each cell used a higher voltage, which isn't likely. A 92S configuration wouldn't be adaptable to produce the standard range pack size. 92S 8P would yield 72.1 kilowatt hours, which is too high, and 92S 7P would yield 63.1 kilowatt hours, which is too low. Whereas 138S 6P and 138S 5P would yield perfect pack sizes for their intended range. 138 would be the only reasonable common factor between 690, 828, and 966 that would allow for a common voltage between these 3 potential pack sizes. 138S would result in a higher voltage than Tesla has ever used before. Previous models used a 96S configuration which resulted in a maximum pack voltage of 403. The new Model S and X use a 110S configuration, which brings the maximum pack voltage up to 462. This 138S configuration I'm suggesting would jump that max voltage to 580. This would require that all the inverters, chargers, and DC-to-DC converters in the vehicles are prepared to handle this voltage, as well as the supercharger infrastructure. This is a big question. However, we do have evidence that the Model S Plaid can charge at 455 volts or more from V2 superchargers, which are indicated to max out at 410 volts. If the hardware and supercharger network is prepared for the higher voltage, this 138S configuration makes more sense for 4 main reasons. Reason number 1, it becomes easier to produce standard range all-wheel drive vehicles instead. When I first considered how Tesla would adapt this pack into a smaller pack for the 279-mile standard range all-wheel drive, I initially assumed they would use less cells per ribbon as they have done before. However, Troy's assumption of using 2 less of the same ribbons would be way more efficient production-wise. They can avoid producing variations with different numbers of cells per cooling ribbon and just use 2 less ribbons per vehicle. As we saw earlier, this would add up to a 67.6 kilowatt-hour pack, which is right in line with the EPA data. I think this black filler block is proof of Tesla's plan to add or remove pairs of these strands in order to vary the pack's capacity. Here's how I think the pack demonstrated at the event would be arranged. We can see the filler blocks on either side. Each color represents a group of 138 cells in series. These 6 series strings would then be placed in parallel. This type of arrangement would be a huge departure from the norm. Typically, multiple cells are grouped together and placed in parallel. Then those groups are placed in series to reach the pack voltage. The reason this type of arrangement hasn't been used before is because each of these strings would be limited by the performance of the worst cell in the string. Therefore, variability in cell performance would have a higher impact on pack level performance than it would in a traditional arrangement. Tesla may believe they can overcome this challenge with their control of the entire process from cell production to formation to pack assembly. For the standard range pack, Tesla would either double up these filler blocks or instead create one twice the size. With one less pair of ribbons, we now have 5 series strings to place in parallel, giving us a properly sized pack of the same voltage. Reason number 2, higher voltage requires less amperage to deliver the same power. This chart shows how many amps are required for a given amount of power. While charging at 250 kilowatts in a current Model 3 or Y requires around 700 amps, less than 500 amps would be required at this higher voltage. This would allow Tesla to slightly reduce the size of the high voltage wiring and use slightly less material. Reason number 3, higher voltage would make CCS stations more useful to Tesla vehicles. From what I've been able to find out so far, most 350 kilowatt CCS stations are limited to either 350 or 500 amps, but almost all can deliver up to 1000 volts. Therefore, increasing voltage allows more power to be drawn at the same current limit. For example, given a perfect CCS adapter, a current long-range Model Y could charge at about 133 kilowatts from a 350 amp station, or about 190 kilowatts from a 500 amp station. This higher voltage would allow for 191 kilowatts and 273 kilowatts charging from the same stations. This would also potentially enable faster charging at superchargers, depending on how much higher of a voltage they support. Without increasing current, over 360 kilowatts would be possible at this higher voltage if the equipment supported it. I can't find any information on the maximum current V3 superchargers are capable of, but the highest charge current I have observed with my car is 668 amps. If you have evidence V3 superchargers can push more current, please leave a comment below. Reason number 4. Since 138 also happens to be a factor of 4,416, the 2170 pack could also be reconfigured to use the same higher voltage. There would actually be multiple benefits to redesigning the current long-range 2170 pack for this higher voltage. First, let's look at this current long-range 2170 pack. We have 4 modules, each containing 7 cooling ribbons of cells like we saw earlier. The outer modules have 6 ribbons with 151 cells attached and 1 ribbon with 152 cells attached for a total of 1058 cells in each. The inner modules have 5 ribbons with 164 cells attached and 2 ribbons with 165 cells attached for a total of 1150 cells in each. These cells are grouped into sets of 46 cells in parallel, and those sets are placed in series. So we have 23 in series in the outer modules and 25 in the inner modules for a total of 96. This gives us a 96S 46P pack. Now let's see how a redesigned 2170 pack using the 138S configuration could look. Instead of groups of 46 cells in parallel, now we have groups of 32. The outer modules would have 4 ribbons with 155 cells and 3 ribbons with 156 cells for a total of 1088 each. The inner modules would have all 7 ribbons with 160 cells for a total of 1120 each. With 34 groups in the outer modules and 35 groups in the inner modules, we arrive at 138 in series using the same number of cells. If we compare these packs side by side, the benefits of a redesigned pack for a higher voltage become clear. To produce this new pack, Tesla would only need to produce 3 variations of cooling ribbon assemblies instead of 4 today. We would also have a more even distribution of cells per ribbon than before, which could help keep cell temperatures more uniform throughout the pack. Smaller conductors could be used to reduce material and weight as less current would need to be drawn. Faster supercharging would become possible, and switching to this pack would require relatively minor changes. Since this long-range 2170 pack for the 3Y is now likely the only use for Giga Nevada's cell output, I think it makes sense to revise the pack and streamline its production further. So what does this mean for Tesla's plan? I'm now very skeptical of my previous assumption that Austin would take over production of performance models once cell supply ramps sufficiently. If Tesla is using a pack arrangement like I've suggested, producing a 4680 pack capable of that level of power may pose more of a challenge than it's worth at this point. I think Tesla will keep Fremont pumping out long-range all-wheel drive and performance models with 2170s and produce only the standard range all-wheel drive in Austin for the foreseeable future. If you found this interesting, make sure to hit like and subscribe. If you would like to support the channel, I would first ask you to consider supporting Troy Teslike. Much of my work utilizes his research, and he provides incredible value to the Tesla community. You can find links to his Twitter and Patreon, as well as mine, in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.